What is a VHS? Do you know? Yes or no? No.
What? I hate that I can only click 3 times and watch it immediately. That sucks.
You're missing the point.
We didn't have a car
the
until...
The world evolved from then
yes,
to
but
now.
you can't manage without a car.
Welcome back, everybody.
Dynamite intro, Mrs. Lush. yeah, you know. Honey,
No, I was laughing.
that's okay. People
right.
like when you laugh because it only happens once in a while. Generational divides have been around since the dawn of time, but nothing has quite exacerbated it like the technological age. Boomers versus Gen Z, the whole like they had it so easy, these kids don't know any. It's a big battle. So the team has gathered some clips that highlight some of the new age generational divide issues, and maybe we'll talk about them. Let's take a peek here.
Back in my day, you could get a loaf of bread for 10 cents. You also made $1.45 an hour. We wasn't on no lean and Molly and Percocets. Yes, because y'all was snorting coke and smoking crack. We were tough. We didn't have no mental health and no therapy. Yeah, but you needed it because look at how you turned out. You had to have tough skin and we wasn't so sensitive. People of different skin colors had to drink at different water fountains and gay people hurt your feelings. Kids don't do nothing but hump and just think about being nasty. You got 14 siblings and your dad has a whole other family. We walked 6 miles through the snow to get to school and 9 miles back. And you got a terrible education because that math does not add up at all. We didn't have your fancy smancy laptops and internet and cell phone. Don't be a hater because you had to get your rocks off to a magazine. That's not my fault. We wasn't sitting here on no Tinder and Bumble and Grindr and whatever else. Yes, because y'all were going home with random strangers you just met for the first time in the middle of a club. And y'all thought it was okay to punch women in the face, put something in their drink.
There's always 2 sides to every coin. The whole debate, Boomer versus Gen Z, it's like there's pros and cons to both of them, mostly.
Sure. And we're just in the middle as some elder millennials.
Yeah, elder millennials, really best of both worlds, quite frankly. Up on your Tinder and Bumble. You went through the Tinder and Bumble phase.
Excuse you.
No, I'm sorry, it was Match.com, wasn't
Yes,
it? Was it Match.com?
It was pre-Tinder.
I know we've talked about this before, but there's probably certain apps that are like more well known for like, oh, you actually want to date somebody versus like
I would assume so.
Tinder and Bumble, which is just like looking for a casual or something. POV, it's 2003 and you get a PlayStation 2 for Christmas. This is going to give me so much nostalgia because I was a little bit older than that in 2003, but quite a bit older.
It's for the PlayStation 2.
What?
It's for the PlayStation 2.
That's
it is a PlayStation 2 game
What?
controller.
Again? They're just giving them the parts of it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
This kid's about to go.
It shows that you care. It's okay. Hey, what's under the tree? It's heavy.
You think they're gonna, oh, here we go, baby. Oh, yeah. He's about to break down crying.
It's a PS2!
Now that kid wants an Apple iPhone 35.
If you're our age, like late 30s or whatever, that was it. Like there was the video game console boom.
Oh.
If you didn't get that for Christmas, like, or you did, that was it. When you're a kid, that's what you wanted. Say what you will about video games and all these stuff, but like that's what the kids
That
wanted
was like
at
the
that age.
big gift.
The big
Yes,
gift.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to
And
know something messed up?
what?
Every video game console, so I have a sister and had a stepbrother. I never got a video game console. It was always my sister's birthday first. And so I feel like she always got that, or it was like her Christmas gift, and then I just had to like ask permission to use it. It was always her video games, and I had to ask.
You know,
The same thing for my stepbrother too.
certainly shows when we play Mario Kart together.
Little sister problems. Always just
No.
bugging the older kids.
I grew up in a very conservative household, and my parents early were very hesitant to allow like video games because, as any kid that grew up in the 90s, once you play Nintendo for the first time, it's all you want to do, and it's all you talk about. There was a period where I wasn't getting them as gifts, but I did save up for my own Sega Saturn through my paper route money. I had a paper route when I was like 9 through 11, and I saved up. I remember it was $300. Went to Walmart, bought the console. It was like the best day of my life. Went home, played Virtua Fighter, a couple of the console games that shipped with it, and then a few months later, the PS1 came out, and it was like a million times bigger than this. It was way better than the Sega Saturn. Anyways, I think the first console my parents ever got me, I was in high school. They got me an original Xbox, and that was when my Halo addiction started, and I became one of the best Halo players of all time.
Millennials and Gen Z employees are taking shots at
Gen Z.
Sorry, did Larry just say Gen Z instead of Gen Z? That's the most boomer thing I've heard today. But I do remember when I finished university, I have an accounting degree, and I was really excited to go work in a big accounting firm and do some interesting and important work. And I spent most of the time like teaching my boss.
Sorry, I don't want to like no shit on accounting, but like if you're getting an accounting degree, I'm not leaving excited to do interesting and important work.
I do the numbers.
Maybe I just don't know enough accounting. But like,
Earned hundreds of thousands.
It's not fun.
Like save to PDF.
I'm going to ask you two. Do you know how to save to PDF? Because I don't.
oh God.
Save a document.
Save to PDF.
Save a thing on the computer, on the interweb, to a PDF.
She doesn't even know.
Comes as a PDF. Does not.
Can you fax it?
Yeah.
I can send it as an email, yes.
Oh, just
You're right, Ryan. You okay, mate? You look a little bit.
Nah, that's actually just really upsetting.
This guy's like genuinely
No,
concerned.
that's absolutely on point though. That's like the perfect example of the generational divide. Like if you don't know how to save a PDF, you're
I can
cooked.
figure it out, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
crappy at computers.
Boomers going to work.
What can I say except you're welcome?
It's the hard knock life for us. Instead of 3 days, we live 3.
I mean,
Accurate.
you see a lot of younger kids like posting to social media about like they graduate high school and into college and done with college, all of a sudden they're in the workforce. We watched one of these recently and they're just like,
Yes.
is this really what life is?
Yep.
They're like, I can't believe it. They're like, I have to work, I have to commute an hour there and back, and then I have no time to do what I want, blah, blah, blah. And the boomers are like, yeah, like that's what being an adult is. Then the Gen Z kids are like, yeah, well, when you were a kid, you could actually work and afford a house and all this stuff. And there's like, both sides have decent points. But at the end of the day, the situation isn't going to change. Like, you got to work, you got to make money, you got to figure out how to make a life for yourself, regardless of whether boomers had it easy or not. If you just drag your feet, it's going to make your life way harder. We're going to the movies in 1978. Huge lines waiting outside. $4, okay? Cash only. Imagine just having to pay with cash before debit cards existed. Debit cards were around when we were young, but they were new.
Sure.
Yeah, they like. In fact, no. I want to say when I was young, like you had debit cards, but it was just to get money out of an ATM.
Well, I was gonna say mostly ATM use.
Right, you weren't using
get
them
cash.
to get cash. You
You
weren't
were
actually
swiping at the store.
That's right. It was still mostly cash only when we were growing up.
And lots of checks.
Oh yeah, my parents
and lots of checks
paying
at the
a
grocery store.
Grocery store,
yeah.
always checks, personal checks. Goodbye, girl. The showings, no digital boards, just all the manual
I feel
displays.
like it's pretty dead every time we go to the movie theaters.
Movie theaters.
I've never seen a line.
Listen, like if you go to like a big release, like I want to like some Marvel stuff. I went to Endgame like at an IMAX and I waited in a little bit of a line, but
right.
you just don't. This was also pre-pandemic. Like the going to the movies thing was already on the decline, I think, because of the access to media we have in our own homes now. And then the pandemic really killed it pretty hard. And there's definitely been a resurgence since then. There's obviously people who are passionate about the cinema, but it's just never going to come back the way that it was back in the day.
I do like going.
Oh no, I do too. It's a good time. Happy over the simple things. Speaking of going out to the movies, going to the movie store was like an event.
I remember.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
Just browsing all the
All the
titles. This pretty much happened with all media. I mean,
I'm not saying I miss it. I mean, our
our
favorite.
favorite. I mean, I miss the nostalgia of it, but like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, man, I really missed it. If I wanted to watch something, I had to get up out of my chair, drive to a store, buy a physical copy, go put it in, rewind it, all these things. I hate that I can only click 3 times and watch it immediately. That sucks.
That was sarcasm.
Mom, can I go to Abigail's house?
Yeah. Text me when you get there, text me when you're about to leave, and make sure location is turned on your phone. Have fun. Mom, Jessica, Jennifer, Elizabeth, and I are gonna go hang out at the abandoned construction site down the road. Okay. Be home before the streetlights come on. Yeah, and so then Jacqueline.
The names.
This is a great one though, because there's nothing more accurate than how parenting has changed in that level.
100%.
I don't really know which particular way I swing. Like our son is 5, so we haven't yet
We're not
reached,
in the thick of
we
it.
haven't reached that age where he's like wanting to be super independent and go out with friends, all this stuff. I grew up across the street from a park where like all the neighborhood kids would congregate, and There were like nights we'd go outside and like play Relivio or kick the can or like hide and seek, like throughout the whole neighborhood, multiple streets. And we would be like jumping fences, like going through people's backyards when the sun's down and your parents are just at home expecting you to just, show up. That would never.
Trust me, I totally know. We
It's
used to
crazy.
do all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
But I can't think. But now as a parent, you got like the Apple AirTag and your kid's sneaker. You got like the fucking tracking location on their phone. Like listen to their audio. I don't know, man.
Tell how many miles an hour the car they're in's going.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah, they got apps now. I haven't looked into this at all. You probably know a little better than I do. But they have like parental tracking apps that obviously using your kid's phone and GPS can tell you every single thing about them.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
No, we're not. But I have conflicting feelings about it because like I feel like there needs to be a level of trust you build with your kid to let them do and experience things without knowing that you're I don't know.
But
what?
do you trust other people?
No, I don't.
Exactly.
But there needs to be some level of concession where you're giving your kid control as well.
Yeah,
ways.
but maybe incrementally. Like you're gonna start off
sure.
one way with some, I don't know what's out there, but
Sure.
Okay, Mom, what is a VHS? Do you know? Yes or no?
No.
What?
Okay, babe, do you know what a VHS is? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
it's confusing.
Okay, do you know what a VHS is?
Yeah, the little tape thing.
Do you know what a VHS is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's it's a tape, right? It's a tape.
Do you know what a
five,
VHS
nice.
is?
No.
No?
No.
Why would
Why
mom?
didn't the person born in the 70s
That's
not know?
the first one, the mom. She's probably
That's
just
so
like
confusing.
Yeah, she's probably just too oblivious. She doesn't even know.
And
what
just
she's
out of context.
Yeah, so what
being
like a
asked that.
videotape was? She'd be like, oh yeah.
Bro, how is this video game so realistic?
Oh, this is facts.
Look at those trees.
Yeah, this is facts.
Insane. Look at that dog. This is some of the most
I know this is just a pixel filter, but
I have ever seen.
Dude, my graphics are trash.
dude, you can't remember where you like your exact thoughts in that moment, but I remember specifically Mario 64 when the N64 came out. My neighbor Trevor went and got the N64 with his mom, came home. We stayed up all night till the wee hours of the morning playing Super Mario 64. Time of my life. It was really like the first time they 3D'd a Mario and 3D'd anything at that time, with the exception of like Virtual Game Boy, and they had a couple of 3D things that were bull. But you're in your head, you're like, wow, I can't. How do they make something so realistic?
Yeah.
And you play, and you look at Mario 64 today, you're like, what? It's 3 polygons? Younger people face harder challenges than previous generations. Or that's the statement.
I live with my parents, and I'm 23.
Right.
And
You works?
Yes.
Yeah. Presumably you're not paying any rent or mortgage or anything.
I am
Of course
paying
not.
rent.
When I first got my first house, it probably only cost about £23,000 or something, but then I was only earning £300 a year. We worked hard and we didn't have a car and we didn't have a colour telly. I think there's a sense of entitlement there that they expect to have things like cars, holidays, phones, a certain standard of living, which they haven't earned.
So I have a car.
You have a
Petrol
car,
prices have
yeah.
increased.
So you don't have to have a car, do you?
Totally disagree with it.
Okay, yeah, but that's how I choose to spend my
Exactly,
money.
but then you're saying that you don't have enough money because that's your choice as to what you spend your money on, as to what you see is
House
necessary.
prices
So you're telling me a car's
nowhere
necessary?
near- Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's
Why?
just the point.
So what other alternatives are there then?
Well, you're missing the point.
We didn't have a car
the
until...
world's evolved from then
Yes,
to
but
now.
you can't
That
manage without a car.
The boomer has decent points. Like she's being a little too boomery. The counter argument from Gen Z, the biggest one is always housing prices, housing market. They're probably right. Housing prices are pretty inflated. I think the value of assets has gone up astronomically in comparison to people's wages. The boomer has some good points though too, where like I do see a lot of people complaining about things that are out of their reach while they're spending their money on things that are definitely not necessities, that are luxuries. And
That's just priorities.
I understand like you want to afford this thing and you say you can't save any money, but yet you're spending money on this, this,
had a
this,
Brazilian
this.
butt lift.
Yeah, Brazilian butt lift, or you're spending money on this. You have 15 streaming services. You're going out to eat twice a week, like all these things.
I know.
it's different for everyone's personal situation. My whole thing is like, no matter what your situation, complaining about it does nothing to make it better. Take all of the energy you've spent being mad at boomers or mad at complaining and figure out a way to game the current system you're in. Like, I'm never saying it's fair. I don't know. House prices are probably crazy. It's probably really hard to afford one, but that's not going to change. So the only option you have to make that part better is to figure it out on your own. Like, that's just the reality of it. I don't know any better way to put it.
How do you take a picture? How do you take a picture?
I see.
Okay, how do you answer a phone? Okay, how do you answer a phone?
Right.
How do you hang up a phone? How do you hang up a phone? How do you roll down the window?
She's gonna do this one.
How do you roll down the window?
That's so funny, the hand motions that you just ingrained in you.
Yeah.
Push button. She's gonna do this.
How do you start a car?
That one's interesting. There's not a whole lot to say about it, but it is interesting just to show like those things that are ingrained in us. I'm curious how I would have responded if she asked me the same. I would definitely would have went with Gen X route with like the hanging up the phone, like stuff like this, just turning your car on. Like, I'm not just, but now everything is just pushing a button on a phone.
Yeah, we're like so in the middle though.
I know.
You could have had like a 50-50 answer. I probably would have been like, wait, do you want this one or this one?
Yeah, I wish someone delivered that test to us without us knowing about that video.
I truly do.
Yeah, I would be very curious where I lied on that scale.
I would have been a conflicted human.
Olympics then versus now. Yeah, dude, athletics is one thing that's really crazy if you look at the history of it with Olympics and just professional sports. Seeing how we've really been able to optimize and see how far we can push the human body to do incredible things. Obviously, like, you can talk about drugs and bringing that into the equation. That creates new potential that might not have been there in the 60s Olympics. Those things obviously aren't allowed. Not to say people still don't do them in certain controlled environments, but yeah, it's just crazy. Even looking at stuff like athletes in football and stuff like that compared to in the 50s and 60s, like, we have so much more science and more data to understand how to optimize the human body to perform at an incredible level with like strength training, plyometrics, all that stuff. It's honestly part of the reason why I think like football, it's still a violent sport, but over the last 20 years, they've had to put governors on it every single year because humans are just so capable and so strong now that like if you didn't have rules to govern that, people are just going to be getting murdered like on every play. Like 80 Chicago's Bear, like greatest Dick Butkus hits. You would look at some of the hits in football from the 70s and 80s and it's just people getting their head lopped off, and that's what people wanted at the time. It's still part of the appeal of football, but it's just an entirely different game now than it was in the 80s, just not even close. But there's a part of me that misses that, like, you know, you throwing it over the middle, you just expect that Lawyer Malloy is going to come and literally take your head off, so you better try and figure out how to protect yourself. And now it's people don't even wear pads anymore. People still get seriously hurt because it's very athletic people playing at high speeds. It's going to happen, but what a different game. Oh, here's one called napping, hon. You might like this.
I love it.
A different.
I don't actually nap.
Generations approach napping. Like, first of all, you've got boomers, and they like to disguise their naps. So they'll sit down with a book, or they'll put the TV on as a way to
just thinking about my parents
themselves and others that they didn't mean to have a nap. They just accidentally fell asleep. Then you've got Gen X.
Dude, my dad ain't trying to fool anyone.
No.
We'll be like Christmas. The whole family's gathered around. He's just supine on the couch, getting a quick one.
Or he'll excuse himself to the bed for a little while.
Yeah, we've always called it a siesta in my family. They just love like 15, 20-minute naps.
I cannot. Nope. That would ruin my life.
Ruins your life. Like, you could never. I am on the fence. Like, I haven't napped in a long time because I've fixed my sleep schedule for better or worse. Recently, I've been struggling. But like when I was not sleeping well, I would need naps sometimes, but it does. Like, you take a nap at 2 p.m.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh, I'll just lay down for 20 minutes. And then I'm like hitting my phone alarm 3 times. I end up sleeping for an hour and a half, getting up at 4 p.m. I'm like, where am I? I hate this. This is fucking awful.
Pretty much always end up feeling worse.
Generation, they would never admit to having to need a nap. I'm not even sure they actually have them unless they're hungover. What I do know is they definitely see napping as a sign of weakness. Millennials, however, they see napping as their God-given right and love to tell anybody who will listen about how great they feel after having a nap. That is as long as it's a 20-minute power nap. Any longer than that and they'll wake up not knowing who they are, where they are, or what year it is. Then you've got Gen Z. They basically see life as something that interrupts their naps, and whereas millennials see napping as a God-given right, they see napping as their basic human rights and can and do nap whenever they feel like it, because Gen Z are basically, as far as I can tell, just cats in human bodies.
I think that was just funny with his delivery.
I like the way different generations talk about their childhoods. First of all, you've got boomers who like to say, you know, how much the world was a better place when they were younger. The people just left their front doors unlocked 24 hours a day, and
They used to bike around the neighborhood, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. Yes, doesn't mean it didn't happen, but
basically crime wasn't invented until the 1970s. Then you've got Gen X. They like to say, you know, how hard their upbringing was, that they're from the school of hard knocks, how they were just left to their own devices. And if they weren't at school, they were just told to go outside and keep themselves busy until it got dark. Then you've got the millennials who had the complete opposite upbringing to Gen X. They were warned about everything, about the fears of stranger danger, talking to strangers, taking sweets from strangers.
We were right in the middle of those two.
Front door to strangers or to anybody, even their own grandparents, in case some criminals managed to make perfect replicas of their faces. And this has basically left every millennial traumatized and terrified of not only opening the front door, but of absolutely everything and anything. Then you've got Gen Z. They grew up being warned about the internet, about the fears of the internet, how nobody on the internet was who they said they were, about the fears of identity theft and how they have to be careful about what they post online. And their parents told them this whilst documenting their entire upbringing on every social media platform available.
Yep.
Also facts.
I like the delivery.
Well, one thing is for sure, with every generation shift comes lots of change. And as humans, we love to harp at each other about which is better and what's worse and who had it easier and who had it harder. That's what she said. But truly the only thing that matters is your ability to adapt. That's literally it. Just gotta adapt. My philosophy on life is like, all right, this is the situation. May or may not have been better or worse 20, 30 years ago, but that has zero bearing on how I should act today because I need to deal with the here and now. And that's how I live my life. But it's fun to look back and reminisce and make fun of people that do nothing but complain. Anyways, thanks for joining us. I'll see you guys at Blockbuster so we can rent Hellraiser and go home and pop some popcorn and rewind it before we return it. See you in the next one. Peace.
Please be kind. Rewind.
No. Be kind. Please rewind.
Oh,
How dare you?